In this first stage of our journey, we step back to a spring morning 66 million years ago, to the very moment where our history and this alternate timeline diverge. We watch as a mountain of fire crosses the sky, not to end the world, but to leave it transformed by its own survival. Welcome, traveler. Let the weight of the modern world fall away as we prepare to drift back through the immense corridors of deep time. We are traveling to an Earth that remains vibrant and wild, a planet where a single moment of celestial chance changed the course of every living thing. Imagine yourself standing on a soft, mossy bank at the edge of a great river delta. 66 million years ago. The air is warm and heavy, carrying the sweet, honeyed scent of early flowering trees and the sharp, resinous aroma of ancient pines. Take a deep, slow breath and listen to the rhythmic pulse of a world that refused to go quiet. High above the swaying canopy of ginkgo and fern trees, the sky is a pale, brilliant turquoise. In the far distance, a streak of light appears, brighter than the morning sun, and trailing a tail of shimmering white fire. This is the Chicxulub impactor, a mountain of rock 10 kilometers wide, hurtling toward the Earth at a speed that defies the imagination. In our history, this stone struck the shallow waters of the Yucatan, bringing darkness and silence. But here, in this quiet moment of alternate grace, the trajectory is shifted by a fraction of a degree. The asteroid Fiskrimsvikfis across the stratosphere, a terrifying herald of an end that will not come. The great shadow of the asteroid passes over the western interior seaway, casting a momentary, unnatural eclipse upon the turquoise waters. Below the surface, a long-necked plesiosaur pauses its rhythmic underwater flight, its dark eyes tracking the moving fire above. The water remains calm, reflecting the orange glow of the sky as the stone continues its journey southward. Instead of striking the carbon-rich shelf of a shallow coast, the asteroid plunges into the deepest, silent abyss of the Pacific Ocean. A colossal pillar of steam erupts into the atmosphere, but the deadly soot and sulfur remain trapped beneath the weight of 5 miles of salt water. On the floodplains of what we call Hell Creek, the ground trembles with a distant, rhythmic thrumming, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. A massive Triceratops bull, his frill painted in shades of deep ochre and dusty blue, lifts his heavy head from a patch of flowering shrubs. He tilts his beaked snout toward the horizon, sensing the vibration through the soles of his 3-toed feet. The wind carries a faint scent of ozone and heated air, but the sky remains clear. After a long, watchful moment, the great herbivore returns to his feeding, the sound of his powerful jaws grinding through fibrous wood ferns, filling the morning air. A few miles away, near a slow-moving river, choked with fallen logs and floating lilies, a mother Edmontosaurus stands guard over a nesting mound of warm mud and rotting vegetation. She feels the same tremor, a soft shudder in the earth, that causes the nearby water to ripple in perfect, expanding circles. She lets out a low, guttural vibration from her throat, a sound that resonates in the hollow chambers of her skull. Her young, covered in a fine down of dark feathers, huddle closer to her legs, their small dark eyes watching the forest edge. The tremor passes, the danger fades, and the cycle of the nest continues unbroken under the morning sun. In the deep shadows of the forest floor, where the light filters through the giant ferns in shafts of dusty gold, a small mammal named Diddlephodon scurries through the leaf litter. It pauses near the roots of a towering conifer, its whiskers twitching as it sniffs the damp soil for insects. In our timeline, this creature's descendants would one day inherit the Earth. But here, as the giant predators above continue to thrive, the mammal remains a creature of the margins. It watches the massive, scaly feet of a passing giant move like living columns through the undergrowth, its heart beating in a fast, frantic rhythm until the danger has slowly walked away. High on a sun-drenched ridge of sandstone, a Tyrannosaurus rex wakes from its slumber, shaking the morning dew from the dark, bristly feathers that line its powerful neck. It lets out a long, slow exhale, the hot breath visible for a moment in the humid air. The predator stands, its massive weight shifting with a quiet, muscular grace as it surveys the river valley below. The asteroid is now a fading spark on the southern horizon, a falling star that has failed to bring the night. The Tyrannosaurus is not a relic of a dying age. It is a king at the height of its power, ready to hunt in a world that still belongs to the strong. Over the shallow inland sea, the sky is filled with the slow, rhythmic flapping of Quetzalcoatlus. With a wingspan as wide as a small plane, the pterosaur glides on the rising thermals, its long, spear-like beak searching the water for a glint of silver. It casts a giant, moving shadow over the white limestone cliffs and the clusters of palm-like cycads. These masters of the air were destined to vanish in the real Cenozoic, but in this world they remain the undisputed rulers of the heavens. The pterosaur banked slowly, its golden eyes reflecting the vast, open horizon of an Earth that has just escaped its own funeral. As the sun climbs higher, the heat begins to draw the moisture from the river mud, creating a soft, luminous haze that hangs beneath the forest canopy. A group of small, feathered Struthiomimus darts through the clearing, their long legs moving with a fluid bird-like speed as they chase dragonflies. The sound of their rhythmic chirping is a bright, cheerful music that fills the humid air. The forest is a symphony of life, a complex web of predation and survival that has refined itself over 100 million years. The asteroid was meant to break this music, to silence the forest forever, but instead, the song continues to grow. The morning of the Great Miss draws to a close, and the world feels strangely unchanged. The iridium-rich clay that marks our history will never be laid down in this world. The soot will never choke the sun, and the frost will never touch the tropical ferns. This is the first day of an alternate Cenozoic, a period of time that should have belonged to the mammals, but will now remain the domain of the dinosaurs. The Earth is a vast, open laboratory of evolution, and for the first time, we are going to see what happens when the masters of the Mesozoic are given 66 million years of extra time. As the first night of this new era approaches, the stars begin to emerge over the darkened floodplains. They are the same stars we see tonight, but they look down upon an Earth that has avoided its greatest tragedy. A mother ankylosaurus settles into the warm dust near a volcanic vent, her heavy, armored tail resting motionless beside her. The air is cool and peaceful, carrying the distant, low bellows of hadrosaurs from the river valley. There is no apocalypse, only the slow, rhythmic pulse of a planet that is moving forward into a future that was never supposed to be. You can feel the stillness of the world, a deep and ancient peace. The shadow of the asteroid has passed, leaving only a faint memory of fire in the southern sky. The giants of the Cretaceous remain, their lineages ready to face the slow turning of the millions of years that lie ahead. The flowering trees will grow taller, the continents will continue to drift, and the climate will slowly cool. But the dinosaurs will be there to meet every change. We close our eyes now, listening to the soft rustle of the ferns in the night wind. The door to this alternate timeline is now wide open, and the journey has only just begun. The Great Collision was avoided, and the Cretaceous world continued to breathe with a terrifying, beautiful strength. In this chapter, we explore the living machinery of these giants, observing the biological masterpieces, from efficient lungs to hollow bones, that ensured the dinosaurs remained the undisputed masters of the Earth. We move from the terrifying brilliance of the near miss into the golden, humid afternoon of a world that refused to vanish. The floodplains of the western interior seaway stretch out before us, a vast landscape of winding river channels, muddy embankments, and dense thickets of broadleaf trees. The air is thick enough to feel against your skin, heavy with the moisture of a greenhouse world that has known no winter for millions of years. In the distance, the low, resonant trumpeting of a herd of hadrosaurs carries across the water, a sound that has defined the rhythm of this planet for generations. We walk slowly along the river's edge, our feet sinking into the soft, sun-warmed silt. To our left, a herd of Triceratops moves across the open fern meadow like a slow, living tide of gray and brown leather. These are the bison of the Cretaceous, thousands of animals moving in a synchronized, rhythmic march that makes the very ground vibrate beneath our boots. Each adult is a mountain of muscle, their massive heads adorned with 3 sharp horns and a wide, bony frill that flashes in the sunlight. You can hear the constant, dry rustle of their bodies brushing against the tall ferns and the steady, rhythmic sound of their heavy breathing. They move with a quiet, collective confidence, knowing that few predators would dare to challenge such a wall of armored bone. Near the shade of a towering cypress tree, a massive long-necked Tyrannosaur has stopped to rest, its ribcage rising and falling in a slow, tectonic rhythm. As it breathes, you can hear a faint, melodic whistling sound, the movement of air through a complex system of internal air sacs that extend from its lungs into its very bones. This is one of the dinosaur's greatest secrets, a respiratory system that allows air to flow in a single, continuous loop, extracting oxygen with a far greater efficiency than any mammal. Every inhale is a masterpiece of natural engineering, fueling a body of 40 tons with a quiet, effortless grace that allows the giant to remain active in the tropical heat. The giant shifts its weight, and you notice the incredible lightness of its movement, despite its immense size. If you were to find a fallen bone of such a creature, you would see that it is not a solid, heavy rock, but a delicate honeycomb of air pockets and thin, strong struts. This pneumatic architecture, shared with the birds of our own time, allowed the dinosaurs to grow to sizes that no land mammal could ever achieve. Their skeletons are like the arches of a great cathedral, light enough to reach for the sky, yet strong enough to withstand the immense pressures of the earth. You can feel the structural elegance in every slow, deliberate step the giant takes toward the river. Further down the bank, a group of duck-billed Edmontosaurus is feeding on a grove of flowering magnolias, their beaked snouts moving with a rhythmic, mechanical precision. Inside their jaws, hundreds of tiny, interlocking teeth are stacked in dense columns, forming a dental battery that can grind the toughest wood ferns into a fine pulp. The sound is a constant, low-frequency crunching, like the grinding of 1,000 small stones. These animals are the ultimate harvesters, their bodies designed to process vast quantities of vegetation with a speed that keeps their massive metabolisms fueled. Every movement of their jaws is a quiet testament to 100 million years of dietary perfection. In the dark, tangled roots of a nearby fern tree, a small mammal with soft brown fur and bright, nervous eyes watches the giants pass. It is no larger than a squirrel, its whiskers twitching as it catches the heavy reptilian scent of the hadrosaurs. In another world, this creature's descendants would rise to rule, but here it remains a shadow in the undergrowth. It is perfectly adapted to its marginal life, hunting beetles in the damp leaf litter and hiding in deep burrows when the earth begins to shake. The mammal is not a failure, but a specialist in the small spaces, a tiny, furry ghost living in the gaps of a much larger story. Near a sun-bleached sandbar, a mother Acaroraptor, a lean, feathered predator the size of a wolf, is tending to a clutch of large, oval eggs. The eggs are arranged in a neat circle, partially buried in the warm sand, and covered with a layer of insulating vegetation. This is another of the dinosaur's biological advantages: the efficiency of the egg. Unlike mammals, who must carry their developing young inside their bodies at a great energetic cost, the dinosaur deposits her legacy in the earth and moves on. This allows for a much faster rate of reproduction, ensuring that even after a local disaster, the dynasty can rebuild its numbers within a single, flourishing season. The mother raptor lifts her head, her sharp, golden eyes catching a movement in the trees. Her body is covered in a beautiful array of pennaceous feathers, shaded in patterns of forest green and burnt sienna. These feathers are not for flight but for display and warmth, a vibrant cloak that reveals her close relationship to the birds that will one day haunt our own skies. She moves with a fluid, bird-like agility, her long tail acting as a rhythmic stabilizer as she hops over a fallen log. There is a fierce, quiet intelligence in her gaze, a focused awareness that has been sharpened by millions of years of predatory evolution. Above the floodplains, the sky is a vast and open theater where the pterosaurs continue their ancient gliding dance. One of the smaller species, with a crest of vivid blue and wings like translucent leather, dips low over the water to snatch a silver-scaled fish from the surface. The splash is a bright, rhythmic sound in the afternoon heat, followed by the soft, leathery snap of the wings as the creature regains its height. These are the veterans of the air, their lineage older than the birds, navigating the thermals with a grace that has remained unchanged for an eternity. They are the silent witnesses to the unbroken reign of the archosaurs. The sun begins to settle lower in the sky, casting long, amber shadows across the river mud and the deep green of the cycad groves. The humidity of the day begins to condense into a soft, luminous mist that clings to the forest floor, smelling of damp earth and the heavy perfume of nocturnal flowers. The Cretaceous world is at its absolute peak, a balanced and thriving ecosystem that has no reason to expect an end. It is a world of incredible biological momentum, a dynasty that has mastered the land, the sea, and the air through sheer evolutionary brilliance. We stand in the fading light, feeling the immense slow pulse of a history that refuses to break. As the first stars blink into existence over the western interior seaway, the sounds of the day begin to fade into the deeper, more mysterious music of the night. The bellows of the hadrosaurs grow distant, replaced by the soft rustle of the small creatures in the undergrowth and the rhythmic chirping of early crickets. The dinosaurs have survived the fire from the sky, and now they prepare to face a much slower, more patient challenge. The climate is beginning its long, invisible shift, and the green world of the Cretaceous is standing on the edge of a new and colder era. We watch the shadows lengthen, ready to move forward into the unknown millions of years. The stable rhythms of the late Cretaceous eventually began to dissolve, not into ice, but into a sweltering, golden fever that gripped the entire planet. We move forward now, 10 million years beyond the near-miss of the asteroid, into a time known as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. A world where the heat rose like a slow tide, turning the Earth into a vast, steaming hothouse. We step into a morning that feels different from the world we left behind, a time where the air is thick, wet and shimmering with an intense humid haze. The sky is no longer a crisp turquoise, but a pale, milky amber, heavy with the weight of carbon and water vapor. We are standing far to the north, in a place that should be gripped by winter, yet the ground beneath us is a soft, damp carpet of moss and fallen leaves. There is no frost here, no bite in the wind. Instead, the atmosphere carries the heavy, fermented scent of a swamp that never sleeps, a place where the sun never truly loses its grip on the horizon. High above the Arctic Circle, we look out over a forest that defies all modern logic. Towering palm trees and broad-leafed magnolias reach toward the sun, their fan-like leaves dripping with a constant, rhythmic condensation. In this hothouse era, the poles have become tropical, and the forests have marched all the way to the ends of the earth. A giant Champsosaurus, a long-snouted reptile resembling a gharial, slides off a muddy bank into a pool of warm, stagnant water. The splash is a soft, heavy sound in the thick air, followed by the sight of bubbles rising through the duckweed as the creature sinks into the comfortable heat of the depths. In a clearing of giant ferns, a descendant of the Tyrannosaur lineage stands motionless, its massive body acting as a living heat sink. Because of its immense size, this dinosaur does not feel the fluctuations of the day. It is a master of thermal inertia, its internal temperature remaining as steady as a deep-rooted tree. It moves its long neck with a languid, rhythmic grace, browsing on the lush, fast-growing vegetation that thrives in the high-carbon air. Every movement is slow and deliberate, designed to minimize metabolic heat in a world that offers no respite from the warmth. The giant is a silent monument to the endurance of the Archosaur line. Over the warm coastal waters of the Tethys Sea, the sky is a blur of leathery wings and golden light. Pterosaurs, having survived the era that should have seen their end, have evolved into more specialized pelagic forms. A medium-sized species with a long, thin crest glides just inches above the wave crests, its golden eyes searching the oxygen poor, sun-warmed water. The sea is a pale, shimmering blue, smelling strongly of salt and rotting kelp. The pterosaur dips a wingtip into the water, a sharp, rhythmic sound in the coastal silence, before banking toward a colony of nests built high on a limestone pillar. Beneath the waves, the great marine reptiles of the Mesozoic continue their undisputed reign, far larger and more diverse than the mammals that would one day take their place. A massive mosasaur, a descendant of the serpentine hunters of the Cretaceous, moves through the warm currents with a rhythmic, powerful flick of its forked tail. It is a creature of deep blacks and shimmering silvers, its skin smooth as polished stone. In this greenhouse world, the oceans are teeming with life that thrives in the heat, and the mosasaur is the apex of this liquid empire, a silent shadow moving through a forest of giant sea lilies. The forest floor is a dense, lightless maze of rapid growth, where the high levels of carbon dioxide have pushed the plants into a frantic, emerald green explosion. Vines as thick as a man's thigh coil around the trunks of massive conifers, their tendrils searching for the sun with a slow, invisible movement. The ground is a rich, black loam that smells of iron and rot, teeming with giant insects that drone with a heavy, rhythmic vibration. We walk slowly, our boots making a soft, squelching sound in the mud, feeling the immense pressure of the forest as it crowds in from every side. In the high canopy, where the light is brightest, small Maniraptoran dinosaurs have diversified into a spectacular array of fruit eaters. One such creature, about the size of a parrot, reaches for a heavy purple fruit with its two-fingered hands, its movements quick and bird-like. It is covered in a coat of iridescent feathers that shimmer like oil on water, changing from deep violet to emerald as it moves through the dappled light. The dinosaur uses its short, powerful beak to tear into the sweet flesh, the sound of its feeding a quiet, rhythmic crunching. These animals are the new gardeners of the hothouse world, spreading the seeds of the flowering trees. As night falls in this polar hothouse, the darkness is not cold, but a warm, velvety embrace. The sky is so thick with moisture that the stars appear as faint, blurred points of light, looking like distant lanterns in a misty forest. The soundscape is a chaotic, rhythmic symphony of frog calls, insect hums, and the distant guttural booms of calling dinosaurs. There is no seasonal silence here, no winter rest. The Earth is a planet of perpetual growth, a world that pulses with a relentless, steaming energy. We sit by a slow-moving river, watching the fireflies dance over the dark, warm water. Among the roots of a giant redwood, a small mammal, a distant relative of the hedgehogs, waits for the giants to pass. In our history, this was the era when mammals began to grow and take over. But here, the dinosaurs allow no such opportunity. The mammal is a specialist of the night, its whiskers twitching as it catches the scent of a nearby feathered predator. It moves with a frantic, rhythmic scurry, disappearing into a deep burrow before a pair of golden eyes can find it. The mammal is a successful survivor, but it remains a creature of the dark, a tiny footnote in a world of scaly and feathered kings. In the distance, the low, orange glow of a volcano flickers against the heavy clouds, a reminder of the geological forces that are fueling this extreme warmth. The smell of sulfur and ash hangs faintly in the air, mixing with the perfume of night-blooming flowers. The Earth is active, shifting, and breathing, its internal heat matching the greenhouse fever of its atmosphere. Every few minutes, a low tremor shakes the ground, a rhythmic vibration that causes the forest to shiver. This is the peak of the hothouse Earth, a world that has reached the furthest edge of its Mesozoic character before the long, slow turn toward the cold. As the sun begins to rise again, casting a thick red light through the morning fog, we realize how perfectly the dinosaurs have mastered this sweltering era. They are not struggling. They are flourishing in the heat, their ancient lineages adapting to the tropical poles and the warming seas. The world feels eternal, a steaming paradise that seems as though it could last forever. But even now, far to the south, the continents are moving into new positions, and the ocean currents are beginning to shift. The great greenhouse is standing on the edge of a transformation it cannot yet sense. The journey through the hothouse draws to a close, and the air feels suddenly thin and expectant. We have seen the palms in the Arctic and the mosasaurs in the warm seas, and now we prepare for the slow, relentless descent into the cold. The age of the greenhouse will eventually give way to the age of the frost, and the dinosaurs will face a challenge that feathers alone may not be enough to conquer. We take one last breath of the heavy, humid air, ready to move forward through the millions of years toward the rising of the ice. The sweltering, golden fever of the greenhouse world eventually began to break, replaced by a slow and relentless cooling that drifted down from the poles. We move forward now, tens of millions of years into the alternate Cenozoic, to witness the first true winters the dinosaur lineage has ever known. The transition is marked by a subtle, rhythmic change in the color of the world, a slow shifting of the endless emerald canopy toward shades of rust, amber, and pale gold. We are standing in a high-latitude woodland that once hosted palms and crocodiles, but the air here has grown thin and crisp, carrying the sharp, clean scent of dying leaves and distant rain. The humidity that once draped the forest like a heavy blanket is gone, replaced by a clarity that makes the distant jagged mountains look as though they were carved from blue glass. We walk slowly through a carpet of dry, fallen foliage, the sound of our movement, a soft, rhythmic crunching in the cooling air. High above the southern horizon, the continent of Antarctica has finally completed its slow, tectonic drift away from South America, opening a vast and deep gateway for the sea. A new ocean current, the circumpolar current, begins to swirl around the southern pole, a rhythmic and powerful vortex that traps the cold and prevents the warmth of the tropics from reaching the ice. We look out over a coastline where the green forests are beginning to retreat, replaced by hardy, stunted shrubs and the first shimmering tongues of permanent ice. The wind here is a new and restless force, a cold breath that moans through the rocky crags and carries the salt of a cooling ocean. In a grove of ancient, deciduous conifers, a small group of polar theropods stands motionless, their bodies transformed by the selective pressure of the falling mercury. These are the descendants of the Maniraptorans, but their plumage has grown thick and dense, a multi-layered coat of downy feathers that traps a layer of warm air against their skin. The feathers are patterned in shades of slate gray and white, providing a perfect camouflage against the frosted trunks of the trees. One dinosaur shakes its body, and the sound is a soft, rhythmic rustle of feathers, followed by the sight of a few stray tufts of down drifting through the cold, still air. The animal lifts its head, and you notice that its snout is shorter and broader than its Cretaceous ancestors, a modification to warm the air before it reaches the lungs. Its golden eyes are large and forward-facing, adapted for the long blue twilights of the high-latitude winter. It moves with a quiet, efficient grace, its footsteps silent on the frosted moss as it searches for the small mammals that now hibernate deep beneath the roots of the trees. The theropod is no longer a creature of the sun-drenched swamp. It is a master of the shadow and the frost, a feathered ghost designed to survive where the giants cannot follow. Further down the slope, near a half-frozen river that glints like a ribbon of dark steel, a herd of hardy hadrosaurs has gathered to forage on the remaining ferns. These animals have remained large, but their metabolism has shifted, allowing them to slow their internal fires during the leanest months of the year. They move with a rhythmic, heavy swaying, their beaked snouts scraping the frost from the vegetation with a dry, scratching sound. The mist of their breath rises in thick, white plumes that catch the dying light of the sun, looking like a series of small, rhythmic clouds dancing above the herd. Near the center of the hadrosaur herd, the younger animals are huddled close to the adults, their bodies covered in a dense, fuzzy coat of protofeathers that look like dark wool. This communal huddling is a social adaptation to the cold, a rhythmic sharing of body heat that allows the lineage to persist even as the temperature drops below freezing. You can hear the low, guttural vibrations they make in their chests, a deep and comforting sound that resonates through the cold air. The hadrosaurs are the great migrators of this new era, prepared to walk thousands of miles to follow the retreating sun and the promise of greener pastures. On a high, rocky ledge overlooking the river valley, a large, cold-adapted predator watches the herd with a patient, focused intensity. It is a descendant of the Tyrannosaur line, but it is smaller and more compact than its Cretaceous forefathers, its body covered in a shaggy mantle of dark, bristly feathers. The predator's breath forms a rhythmic, white mist that curls around its snout like a spectral beard. It does not move, its scales and feathers blending perfectly with the gray stone of the cliff. It is a creature of endurance, capable of waiting for hours in the freezing wind for the perfect moment to strike, a silent sentinel of the cooling world. The soundscape of this alternate Oligocene is different from the chaotic symphony of the hothouse. It is a world of sharp, crystalline sounds and long, echoing silences. You hear the rhythmic crack of a frozen branch snapping under the weight of the snow, and the high, crystalline tinkling of ice forming along the edges of the river. The wind carries the lonely, melodic call of a pterosaur, its voice echoing through the rocky canyons as it searches for a thermal to carry it toward the warmer coast. The world feels more fragile now, a place where every movement is a calculated expenditure of energy against the creeping cold. As the sun settles behind the mountains, the sky turns a deep, bruised indigo, and the first few stars begin to glitter with a fierce, cold brilliance. The darkness brings a sudden, sharp drop in temperature that causes the forest to groan and creak as the wood contracts in the frost. We sit by a small, natural spring that still bubbles with the internal heat of the earth, watching the steam rise in slow, rhythmic curls into the starlight. The scent of the night is clean and sharp, smelling of pine resin, frozen mud, and the faint, dusty aroma of the retreating forest. The world is preparing for its first true winter sleep. Among the roots of a fallen redwood, a small mammal, a descendant of the early rodents, huddles in a nest of dry grass and feathers. In this world, the cold has not freed the mammals. It has merely changed the nature of their survival. The little creature is a master of hibernation, its heart rate slowing to a rhythmic, imperceptible beat as it waits for the spring. It is a tiny, warm secret hidden away from the giants, a survivor that knows how to disappear when the world turns white. The mammal is a quiet passenger in the story of the dinosaurs, waiting for the sun to return. The first flakes of snow begin to fall, drifting down through the dark branches with a soft, rhythmic silence. They land on the scaly back of a resting ceratopsian, looking like tiny, white stars against the dark skin. The dinosaur does not move. It has entered a state of rest, its heavy body holding on to the last of the day's warmth. The snow begins to accumulate, turning the vibrant colors of the forest into a monochrome world of gray and white. The earth is entering a new rhythm, a cycle of freezing and thawing that will drive evolution in directions the greenhouse world never required. The journey through the turning leaves reaches its conclusion, and the air feels heavy with the promise of the coming ice. We have seen the feathers of the polar theropods and the retreat of the tropical palms, and now we prepare for the rising of the Great Plains. The age of the forest is giving way to the age of the open sky, and the dinosaurs are ready to follow the grass as it begins its conquest of the continents. We take one last look at the frosted woodland, ready to move forward through the millions of years toward the golden horizon of the Miocene. The long, slow cooling of the Earth has finally reached a transformative threshold. We move forward now into the Miocene, nearly 40 million years after the asteroid missed, to witness the rise of the grasslands, a new world of open horizons and resilient green that will force every dinosaur lineage to reinvent itself or vanish. The dense, shadowed woodlands that once covered the continents have begun to fray at the edges, retreating toward the rivers and coastlines like an ebbing tide. We stand on the boundary of a new world, where the trees grow sparse and the sky feels immense, pressing down with a weightless, blue clarity. The air is drier here, carrying the sharp, sweet scent of sun-baked stalks and the faint, earthy aroma of dry soil. A rhythmic rustling fills the silence, not of leaves in a high canopy, but of billions of slender green blades swaying in unison. We walk out into the open, our boots brushing against a sea of grass that stretches toward the golden horizon. This grass is unlike the soft ferns of the Cretaceous. It is a resilient and aggressive survivor, designed to be eaten and to grow back even stronger. Each blade is embedded with microscopic particles of silica, tiny shards of natural glass that act as a defense against the hungry. As the wind moves across the plain, the grass produces a soft, metallic hissing sound, a rhythmic whispering that seems to follow the movement of the sun. The light here is bright and unforgiving, reflecting off the silica-rich stems until the entire landscape shimmers with a pale golden brilliance. It is an ocean of vegetation, a vast and waving carpet of life. In the center of this golden sea, a massive herd of ceratopsians moves with a slow, grinding persistence. These are the descendants of the Triceratops lineage. But 20 million years of grassland life have transformed their silhouette. Their heads are held lower to the ground, their necks shorter and more muscular to support a life of constant grazing. The elaborate frills of their ancestors have shrunk, becoming thick and functional shields of bone designed to protect against predators in a world without cover. You can hear the rhythmic thump-thump of their heavy, pillar-like legs as they navigate the uneven ground, their bodies swaying like heavy ships in the grass. A large bull stops to feed, his wide, squared-off beak plunging into a thicket of tough prairie grass. Unlike the forest browsers of old, his snout is built like a living lawnmower, capable of cropping hundreds of blades in a single powerful bite. As he chews, you can hear a rhythmic, abrasive grinding sound, the sound of the silica problem being solved. Inside his jaws, his teeth have evolved into a massive, self-sharpening dental battery, constantly growing from the root to replace the surfaces worn down by the abrasive grass. Every movement of his jaw is a slow, mechanical victory over the glass-filled blades, a quiet triumph of evolutionary adaptation. The bull lifts his head, and you notice the dust that clings to his pebbled skin, a fine, silica-rich powder kicked up by the movement of the herd. The sunlight catches the dust, creating a shimmering halo around his massive horns as he scans the horizon. In this open world, his eyes are his primary defense, placed high on his skull to see over the waving stalks. He lets out a low, vibrating huff, a sound that carries through the earth to the rest of the herd. There are no trees to hide behind here. His safety lies in the collective vigilance of the 1,000 pairs of eyes that watch the grass for any sign of a shadow. Further off, where the grass grows taller near a hidden spring, a group of long-legged hadrosaurs moves with a fluid, rhythmic grace. These ostrich dinosaurs are the gazelles of the Miocene plains, their bodies streamlined and their feathers reduced to a fine, sleek down that regulates their temperature in the midday sun. They do not graze like the horned giants. Instead, they use their nimble beaks to snatch at grass seeds and high-protein flowering plants. Every few moments, they pause in perfect unison, their long necks craned upward, their nostrils twitching as they sample the wind. They are the nervous, beautiful music of the savanna, ready to vanish into a blur of speed at the first hint of danger. Beneath the heavy, rhythmic trampling of the herd, the ground is alive with the hidden world of the mammals. In this alternate Miocene, the mammals have mastered the subterranean, building vast and complex networks of burrows beneath the roots of the grass. A small furry creature with shovel-like claws emerges briefly from a hole, its whiskers trembling as it tastes the air. It watches the massive three-toed feet of the ceratopsians pass just inches away, the ground shaking with a rhythmic, tectonic force. The mammal is a successful thief, stealing seeds and insects under the cover of the giants, a tiny survivor, that has turned the open plain into a fortress of tunnels. The sky above the grassland is a vast, unobstructed theater where the pterosaurs have found a new role as masters of the thermals. A large, hawk-like species glides on the rising heat of the afternoon, its shadow a dark, rhythmic flicker across the golden grass. It does not look for fish anymore. Its eyes are fixed on the small reptiles and mammals that scurry between the stalks. The pterosaur banked slowly, its leathery wings catching the light like sun-bleached parchment. In this world of open spaces, the sky is a hunting ground where speed and vision are the only laws. And the pterosaurs have adapted to the savanna with a fierce, quiet grace. As the sun begins to settle, the entire plain is transformed into a world of liquid fire and long, violet shadows. The wind dies down, and the rhythmic hissing of the grass softens to a gentle sigh. The hadrosaur herd begins to move toward a distant river, their silhouettes dark and elegant against the orange sky. You can hear the rhythmic clack-clack of their beaks as they communicate in low, melodic chirps. The world feels immense and eternal, a golden kingdom that has found its perfect balance. The heat of the day lingers in the soil, a warm and comforting breath that rises from the roots of the blades. At the edge of the cooling plain, where the grass meets a line of weathered sandstone cliffs, a lone predator watches the herd from the shadows. It is lean, feathered, and balanced on legs built for the long pursuit. It does not rush. It waits for the rhythm of the herd to falter, its golden eyes reflecting the last glint of the sun. This is the new master of the Miocene, a creature that has traded the ambush of the forest for the strategy of the open air. The predator's breath is a slow, rhythmic mist in the cooling air, a silent promise of the hunt that will define the coming millions of years. The scent of the night begins to rise, a mixture of dry hay, cold earth, and the faint, sweet aroma of evening blooming wildflowers. The ceratopsian bull lets out a final, deep bellow that echoes across the savanna, a sound of territorial strength that vibrates in the cooling air. The herd begins to settle, their massive bodies forming a protective circle against the dark. The grass continues its rhythmic swaying, a silent sentinel that guards the secrets of the plain. The world of the forest is gone, and the world of the open sky has truly begun, a place where the giants must be faster, smarter, and stronger than ever before. The journey through the sea of blades reaches its conclusion, and the air feels quiet and expectant. We have seen the evolution of the dental battery and the rise of the grazing herds, and now we prepare for the rising of the predators. The Golden Plains will soon become a theater of strategy and intelligence, where the mind becomes as important as the horn. We take one last look at the shimmering horizon, ready to move forward through the millions of years toward the birth of a new kind of dinosaur. The night is warm, the grass is still, and the story moves ever westward into the heart of the savanna. As the golden grass claimed the continents, the solitary giants of the forest found themselves in a world without shadows. The rules of the hunt had changed, and a new kind of predator was rising, one that traded raw power for the sharpest weapon of all, the coordination of the pack. The sun begins its slow ascent over the Miocene savanna, casting a long amber glow that ignites the tops of the waving grass. On a low ridge of wind-scored sandstone, a lone predator stands motionless, silhouetted against the pale blue of the early morning sky. This is a descendant of the Tyrannosaur lineage, but 60 million years of evolution have sculpted a creature far leaner and more agile than its heavy-set ancestors. Its legs are long and bird-like, built for sustained running across the open plains, and its body is balanced by a stiff, rhythmic tail that acts as a rudder. A crest of dark, iridescent feathers runs from its snout to its shoulders, ruffling gently in the morning breeze. The predator's eyes are set forward in a narrow, streamlined skull, providing a field of binocular vision that far exceeds any modern hawk. It watches the horizon with a quiet, focused intensity, judging the distance to a grazing herd with a mathematical precision. The light of the sun catches the gold of its iris, a sharp and brilliant spark in the early gloom. There is no frantic movement here, only the steady, rhythmic pulse of a hunter that has learned to value patience over the sudden burst of speed. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint, dry scent of dust and the metallic aroma of the coming heat. A low, deep vibration hums through the ground, a sound too deep for a human ear but felt clearly in the hunter's chest. From the shadows of a nearby dry wash, 3 more Tyrannosaurs emerge, their movements synchronized and silent. They do not roar. They communicate through a language of low-frequency thrumming and subtle shifts in the position of their feathered crests. This social coordination is their greatest evolutionary leap, a mental technology that allows them to hunt prey far larger and more dangerous than any solitary individual could hope to conquer. They move together as a single rhythmic organism, a pack of shadows drifting through the golden sea of the grass. The pack begins to spread out across the plain, moving into positions that have been refined through millions of years of ancestral experience. They move with a slow, high-stepping grace, their clawed feet finding the silent patches of earth between the rustling blades. You can hear the soft, rhythmic hush-hush of their feathered bodies brushing against the tall stalks, a sound that is lost in the larger whisper of the wind. They are not rushing. They are closing a trap that is kilometers wide, a geometric exercise in predatory strategy. The light catches the tips of their claws, white and sharp against the deep green of the savanna. In the distance, the target comes into view, a massive, solitary bull ceratopsian, a horned giant that has wandered too far from the safety of the main herd. He is a mountain of armored muscle, his 3 horns gleaming like ivory in the rising sun. He senses the change in the air, his beaked snout lifting from the grass as he lets out a low, warning huff. He is a formidable fortress of bone, a creature that his Cretaceous ancestors would have defended alone. But the savanna has created a different kind of threat, one that does not rely on a single, crushing bite to bring the fortress down. To the left, a smaller, swifter predator, a descendant of the Dromaeosaur raptors, darts through the grass like a streak of gray smoke. These plains raptors have evolved to be the wolves of this alternate world, hunting in packs of 20 or more. They do not challenge the giants directly. Instead, they move with a rhythmic, frantic energy, nipping at the heels of the prey and forcing it to move in a chosen direction. The sound of their high-pitched chirping is a constant, staccato rhythm that keeps the prey off balance and filled with a low-grade, exhausting panic. They are the skirmishers of the savanna, the masters of the long, tiring pursuit. The Tyrannosaur pack finally closes the circle, their movements tightening around the horned bull. One hunter moves to the front, performing a rhythmic, swaying display with its feathered crest to hold the prey's attention. Meanwhile, the others drift toward the flanks, their long legs coiled for the final, explosive sprint. The air is thick with tension, a heavy silence that is broken only by the rhythmic, heavy breathing of the massive herbivore. The bull lowers his head, his horns aimed at the dancing shadow in front of him, unaware of the silent killers that have already claimed his rear. The chase, when it finally begins, is not a sudden sprint, but a steady, rhythmic pressure. The pack takes turns leading the pursuit, allowing individual hunters to rest while the others keep the bull moving across the sun-baked earth. This is the strategy of exhaustion, a relentless tide of movement that slowly drains the strength from the horned giant's heart. You can hear the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of the chase, a heavy drumbeat that echoes across the golden plain. The sun is now high and hot, turning the dust kicked up by the feet of the pack into a shimmering golden haze. By the time the sun begins its afternoon descent, the great bull has slowed, his head hanging low, his breath coming in ragged, rhythmic gasps. The pack moves in for the final strike, a coordinated effort that avoids the dangerous horns and focuses on the vulnerable flanks. There is no loud drama, only the quiet, efficient work of predators that have mastered the physics of the kill. The bull settles into the grass with a slow, heavy groan, a sound that marks the end of a long and honest struggle. The savanna is a world of balance, where the grass feeds the horn and the horn feeds the claw. As the pack begins to feed, there is a clear and rhythmic hierarchy to their movements. The lead bull takes the first portion, his movements slow and dignified, followed by the others in a series of calculated, respectful gestures. They do not fight. The hunt was a communal victory, and the feast is a communal rest. The smell of the earth and the heat of the afternoon sun mingle with the sharp, metallic scent of the kill. High above, the pterosaurs begin to circle in slow, rhythmic spirals, waiting for their turn to clean the bones. The world is quiet, satisfied, and profoundly alive. The biological cost of this new lifestyle is a high-speed metabolism that requires constant fuel. These predators must hunt more often than their forest-dwelling ancestors, their bodies burning through energy like a furnace. This pressure is what drives the evolution of their minds, rewarding the individuals who can plan, remember, and cooperate. You can see it in the way the pack rests together in the shade of a lone acacia tree, their heads resting on each other's flanks in a rhythmic, communal sleep. They are not just hunters. They are a family, a society of minds bound together by the open sky. In the roots of the same tree, a small mammal, a descendant of the early opossums, watches the sleeping giants with wide, dark eyes. It stays perfectly still, its heart beating in a fast, frantic rhythm that matches the buzzing of the cicadas. In this world, the rise of the pack has made the daylight even more dangerous for the small. The mammal waits for the sun to drop and the giants to drift into deeper slumber before it dares to move. It is a tiny witness to the peak of dinosaur strategy, a silent spectator in a theater where brawn has been replaced by the brilliance of the group. The evening air begins to cool, turning the golden plain into a world of long violet shadows and soft, whispering stalks. The Tyrannosaur pack stirs, their movements slow and rhythmic as they prepare for the journey back to their nesting grounds. The lead hunter lets out a final, low-frequency thrum that vibrates through the cooling earth, a signal of unity that carries across the savanna. The world of the solitary king is a memory. The world of the social predator is the reality of the present. We watch them walk away into the fading light, their shadows stretching out before them like the history of their line. The journey through the strategy of the pack reaches its conclusion, and the air feels charged with a new kind of curiosity. We have seen how the open plains forced the mind to sharpen and the hunt to become a shared art, and now we prepare to look closer at the spark within the skull. The coordination of the hunt is the first step toward a much deeper mystery, the birth of a true dinosaur intelligence. We take one last look at the darkening plain, ready to move forward through the millions of years toward the moment where the hunter begins to wonder about the world it rules. As the millions of years drifted by, the open savanna and the complex social lives of the pack hunters created a new kind of pressure. Evolution began to favor not just the strength of the limb or the sharpness of the tooth, but the agility of the mind. We move now to a quiet riverbank in the late Miocene, to witness the birth of a consciousness that is entirely alien, yet undeniably profound. The morning sun filters through the canopy of a riverine forest, casting a rhythmic pattern of dappled light across the mossy stones of the bank. We are watching a group of small, feathered dinosaurs, descendants of the troodontid lineage. As they gather at the water's edge, they are no larger than a tall child, their bodies sleek and covered in a coat of fine, gray and gold feathers that shimmer in the shifting light. They do not move with the heavy tectonic weight of the giants. Instead, they possess a fluid, nervous grace, their heads bobbing in a steady, rhythmic motion as they scan their environment. These are the intellectuals of the alternate Earth, creatures whose survival depends on the silent calculations of the brain. One individual, a mature female with a crest of snowy white feathers, crouches by a shallow pool, her golden eyes fixed on a large, hard-shelled river snail. She does not simply snap at the prey with her beak. She pauses, her head tilting in a slow, rhythmic movement as she observes the object. Her hands are masterpieces of evolutionary design, with long, slender fingers and a semi-opposable digit that allows for a precision grip. She reaches down and selects a smooth, heavy river stone, her fingers curling around it with a quiet, practiced ease. There is a focused intentionality in her gaze, a spark of problem-solving that has been millions of years in the making. She brings the stone down onto the snail's shell with a sharp, rhythmic clack, using just enough force to shatter the casing without crushing the delicate meat inside. This is not a random action, but a learned behavior, a tool use that she has refined through years of observation and trial. As she feeds, she looks up to watch the younger members of her group, who are mimicking her movements with varying degrees of success. The sound of stones striking shells becomes a soft, rhythmic percussion against the background of the flowing river. This is the beginning of a cultural transmission, a way of passing knowledge from one generation to the next, without the need for a single spoken word. The communication within the group is a complex rhythmic tapestry of sound and gesture. They do not roar. They speak in a language of high-pitched chirps, melodic trills, and subtle movements of their feathered tails. A young male lets out a series of quick rhythmic clicks to signal the discovery of a cluster of eggs hidden in the reeds. The others respond with a chorus of soft, hooting sounds, their crests rising and falling in a synchronized display of social unity. It is a world of constant information exchange, a social network where every individual's observation becomes the group's collective wisdom. The brains of these creatures are small by human standards, but they are densely packed with neurons and optimized for a different kind of brilliance. Like the crows and parrots of our own world, their intelligence is avian in nature, centered on rapid processing, complex memory, and social navigation. We watch as the female with the white crest uses a thin twig to probe a hole in a fallen log, her movements slow and rhythmic as she searches for beetle larvae. She feels the vibration of the insect through the wood, a tactile map of the hidden world that she interprets with a quiet, analytical focus. She is a scientist of the forest floor, a creature that understands the why of her environment. The group's nesting site is hidden deep within a thicket of thorny shrubs, a communal space where the social bonds of the lineage are forged. The nests are not simple piles of mud. They are carefully constructed bowls of woven grass and soft feathers. arranged in a rhythmic circle that allows for mutual protection. As the sun begins to set, the adults gather to groom one another, their beaks moving in a soft, rhythmic preening that reinforces the hierarchy and the harmony of the pack. The smell of the nest is a comforting mixture of dry grass, earthy musk, and the faint, sweet aroma of crushed berries. In the deepening twilight, the white-crested female stands guard at the edge of the thicket, her golden eyes reflecting the first few stars. She watches the massive silhouettes of long-necked giants as they move toward the river, their heavy footsteps a rhythmic thrumming in the earth. She does not see them as gods or monsters, but as predictable elements of her landscape, mountains of meat and bone that must be navigated with care. There is a profound sense of self-awareness in her posture, a realization that she is a small but clever part of a much larger, more dangerous world. The intelligence of these dinosaurs is not humanoid. They have no desire to build cities or domesticate the wild. Their minds are perfectly tuned to the rhythm of the forest and the savanna, a consciousness that finds its meaning in the hunt, the nest, and the shared song of the group. They are masters of the present moment, their problem-solving geared toward the immediate challenges of survival and the preservation of their kin. As the moon rises, a young member of the group begins a long, melodic trill that is taken up by the others, a rhythmic evening hymn that echoes through the trees like the wind. This sapient spark is a quiet, shimmering thing, an evolutionary experiment that has flourished in the absence of a global catastrophe. Without the asteroid, the Earth has produced a mind that is shaped by feathers and scales, a way of knowing the world that we can only begin to imagine. We watch as the white-crested female settles into her nest, her breathing slowing to a steady, rhythmic pace. She is not a person, but she is a personality, a unique life with memories, preferences, and a deep, instinctive love for the members of her tribe. The forest is her library, and the stars are her silent companions. The scents of the night are thick and heavy, the smell of damp moss, the fragrance of night-blooming jasmine, and the cool, metallic aroma of the river. The small, intelligent dinosaurs huddle together, their feathered bodies forming a warm, rhythmic mound of shared life. They are safe in their cleverness, protected by the social armor they have built over the millions of quiet years. The world of the giants continues to roar and rumble outside the thicket, but here, in the heart of the nest, there is a different kind of power. It is the power of the mind to understand, to adapt, and to remember. The journey through the sapient spark reaches its conclusion, and the air feels charged with a new kind of wonder. We have seen how the mind of a dinosaur could grow to match the complexity of its world, and now we prepare to face the ultimate challenge of the deep time. The long cooling is about to reach its peak, and the ice is coming to test every lineage, both the strong and the clever. We take one last look at the golden eyes of the forest dwellers, ready to move forward through the millions of years toward the rising of the frost. The night is still, the song is finished, and the story moves ever toward the winter of the world. While the land transformed into a sea of grass, the ancient oceans remained the kingdom of the reptiles. In this weightless world, the lineages of the Cretaceous did not give way to mammals, but instead grew into titans that rule the deep to this day. We leave the golden dust of the Miocene savanna and move toward the edge of a massive, white-cliffed coastline. The air here is cool and sharp, carrying the heavy, primeval scent of salt spray and rotting kelp. Below us, the Atlantic Ocean stretches out in a vast, restless sheet of deep indigo, its surface broken by the slow, rhythmic pulse of the tides. In our history, These waters are the domain of whales and dolphins, but in this alternate timeline, no mammal has ever dared to return to the sea. The horizon is empty of ships, yet the water is alive with shadows that have patrolled these depths for 100 million years. We glide beneath the surface, and the world immediately shifts into a realm of weightless, emerald green light. The sound of the wind is replaced by a muffled, rhythmic thrumming, the low-frequency vibration of the ocean's heart. A school of silver-scaled fish darts past, their movements a synchronized flash of light, pursued by a predator that is built like a living torpedo. This is a modern descendant of the Mesozoic line, nearly 20 meters long, and streamlined for the open sea. Its skin is smooth and dark, resembling the texture of polished rubber, and its powerful tail ends in a vertical, shark-like fluke that moves with a rhythmic, side-to-side power. The mosasaur does not move with the playful, undulating leaps of a dolphin. It is a creature of focused, serpentine efficiency. As it cruises through the sunlit upper layers of the water, its dark back provides a perfect camouflage against the deep blue below. You can see the rhythmic movement of its powerful neck muscles as it steers, its golden eyes fixed on the silver school ahead. Unlike its Cretaceous ancestors, this animal has evolved a thick layer of internal fat, a reptilian blubber, to maintain its body heat in the cooling Cenozoic currents. It is a warm-blooded titan of the blue, a master of the hunt that has known no rival for eons. Further down, in the dim, blue-gray twilight where the sunlight begins to fail, a long-necked plesiosaur moves with a haunting, rhythmic grace. Its four large flippers act like underwater wings, flying through the water with a slow and steady beat. Its neck, nearly 10 meters long, snakes through the water ahead of the body, allowing it to strike at schools of squid without being detected. The plesiosaur's movement is a masterpiece of fluid dynamics, a rhythmic pulsing that leaves almost no wake. It is a silent ambusher of the deep, a creature that seems to belong more to the world of dreams than to the reality of the sea. The plesiosaur stops to feed, its head darting into a cloud of glowing bioluminescent squid with a rhythmic, mechanical speed. Its teeth are fine and needle-like, forming a mesh that traps the slippery prey while allowing the water to escape. In our history, the baleen whales would have filled this role, but here, the plesiosaurs have evolved into the great harvesters of the ocean's bounty. You can see the rhythmic expansion of its throat as it swallows, the silver light of the squid fading as they disappear into the dark. The animal remains suspended in the blue, a quiet and ancient presence in the cooling depths of the Atlantic. Over the surface of the coastal waters, the sky is filled with the rhythmic shadows of maritime pterosaurs. These are the albatrosses of the alternate Earth, with wingspans reaching 8 meters, their leathery membranes white on the underside to blend with the clouds. They do not flap constantly. Instead, they lock their wings and glide for thousands of miles on the ocean winds. One pterosaur dips its long, serrated beak into the water, a sharp, rhythmic zip that leaves a line of white foam. It snatches a flying fish from the air, its movements a blur of leathery grace before it rises back into the salt-scented sky. As we move into the colder, nutrient-rich waters of the northern currents, we encounter the true leviathans of this timeline. A massive filter-feeding mosasaur, nearly 30 meters in length, cruises through a cloud of krill. It is a mountain of dark flesh, its mouth wide enough to swallow a small boat, its jaws lined with specialized plates that function exactly like baleen. The sound of its movement is a deep, rhythmic groan that carries for miles through the water. It is the largest animal in this world, a creature that has reached the absolute limits of biological size. Every breath it takes at the surface is a thunderous, rhythmic eruption of spray. The communication of these marine reptiles is a mysterious, rhythmic language of clicks and deep-bellied vibrations. They do not sing like the whales of our world. Their voices are more percussive, a series of rhythmic thumps and grinding sounds that resonate through the water like a distant drum. You can feel the vibration in your chest as a mother mosasaur calls to her calf, a low-frequency hum that speaks of a complex and ancient social life. The ocean is a theater of sounds, a world where the darkness is mapped by the echoes of the giants. Every click is a data point in their liquid map. In the deepest trenches of the ocean, where the pressure is immense and the light is a memory, a specialized lineage of mosasaurs has conquered the abyss. These deep dwellers have enormous, light-sensitive eyes that occupy nearly half of their skulls, allowing them to see the faint, rhythmic flashes of bioluminescent life in the dark. Their bodies are long and eel-like, moving with a slow, rhythmic undulation that conserves energy in the oxygen-poor depths. They are the dragons of the midnight zone, hunting giant squid in a world that has remained unchanged since the beginning of time. They are the final hidden secret of the reptilian sea. The scents of the coastline begin to drift back, the smell of brine, wet stone, and the sharp aroma of seabird colonies. The sun is setting over the Pacific, turning the water into a sheet of hammered gold and violet shadow. A group of plesiosaurs rises to the surface to breathe, their long necks arching out of the water in a rhythmic, serpentine motion. The sound of their exhales is a soft, rhythmic huff that punctuates the silence of the evening waves. They are the eternal sentinels of the deep, a dynasty that has watched the continents move and the stars shift without ever losing their grip on the waves. The journey through the ocean of leviathans reaches its conclusion, and the air feels heavy with the weight of the water. We have seen the torpedo-like mosasaurs and the soaring pterosaurs, and now we prepare for the final frozen trial of the deep time. The long cooling is reaching its peak, and the ice is marching down from the north to test the rulers of the land. We take one last look at the dark, restless surface of the sea, ready to move forward through the millions of years toward the rising of the frost. The night is cold, the tide is high, and the story moves toward the winter of the world. As the moonlight catches the spray of a distant leviathan, you realize that the ocean is not a place of transition, but a place of permanence. The reptiles of the sea have outlasted the asteroid, the heat, and the shifting currents, and they will outlast the ice. You can hear the rhythmic wash of the waves against the shore, a sound that has remained unchanged for 100 million years. The world of the water is a silent and ancient kingdom, and its rulers are ready for whatever the future brings. The deep is a cradle of survival, a blue fortress that never fell. The long descent into the cold has reached its crystalline peak. We move forward now, deep into the Pleistocene, where the rhythm of the earth is dictated by the slow, crushing advance of the glaciers and the resilient warmth hidden beneath layers of down and bone. The world has grown silent, draped in a heavy, brilliant mantle of white that stretches from the northern horizons to the very heart of the temperate zones. We are standing on a vast, windswept plain that would one day be known as the Mammoth Steppe, but in this world, it is the kingdom of the feathered giants. The air is so cold it feels brittle, a sharp, invisible weight that makes every breath a rhythmic puff of white mist. There is no scent of damp earth or tropical flowers here. The atmosphere is clean and sterile, smelling only of dry snow and the faint metallic tang of ancient ice. We walk slowly, our boots crunching rhythmically through the frozen crust of the snow. In the middle of this white expanse, a herd of woolly hadrosaurs moves with a slow, swaying persistence. These are the descendants of the duck-billed giants, but 60 million years of cooling have transformed them into the shaggy titans of the north. Their entire bodies, from their broad beaks to the tips of their heavy tails, are covered in a dense, multi-layered coat of filamentous feathers that look like dark, matted wool. This plumage is a masterpiece of insulation, trapping a pocket of warm air against the skin and allowing the animals to remain active in temperatures that would freeze the marrow of their Cretaceous ancestors. You can hear the rhythmic creak crunch of their heavy feet as they break through the snow in search of buried lichen. The lead hadrosaur stops, using its broad, shovel-like beak to scrape away a layer of frozen snow from a patch of hardy tundra grass. As it feeds, you can hear a rhythmic, abrasive grinding, the sound of its massive dental batteries processing the tough, silica-rich vegetation of the Ice Age. The grass is dry and yellow, but the hadrosaur's stomach is a massive fermentation vat, capable of extracting life from the most meager of offerings. The animal's breath rises in a thick, rhythmic plume, a white beacon of internal warmth in a world made of frost. Every movement is a calculated expenditure of energy, a slow dance of survival played out on a stage of ice. Further across the plain, a group of horned tundra walkers, descendants of the Triceratops, huddle together in a protective circle. Their massive heads are adorned with short, stout horns, and their frills have evolved into thick, bony crests covered in a layer of insulating fat and shaggy feathers. They look like living boulders, their bodies low to the ground to avoid the biting wind that howls across the steppe. The wind produces a high-pitched, rhythmic whistle as it passes over their armored hides, a lonely music that defines the Pleistocene night. These are the fortresses of the frost, creatures that have traded the vibrant displays of the forest for the rugged utility of the tundra. The light of the afternoon sun is a pale, horizontal gold, casting long, blue shadows across the undulating dunes of snow. You notice a movement near the edge of a frozen river, a flash of white on white that vanishes as quickly as it appeared. This is the Arctic Tyrannosaur, the ghost of the steppe. It is smaller than its southern cousins, its body covered in a sleek, snowy white plumage that makes it nearly invisible in the blizzards. It moves with a rhythmic, high-stepping grace, its clawed feet equipped with a layer of insulating scales that act like natural snowshoes. It does not roar. It is a silent stalker, a predator that moves with the cold clarity of the ice itself. The ghost of the steppe is not alone. From behind a ridge of jagged ice, 3 more white-feathered hunters emerge, their movements synchronized in a slow, rhythmic crawl. They are coordinated social hunters, communicating through subtle shifts in their posture and low, vibrating hums that carry through the frozen ground. In this world of open ice, the solo hunter is a memory. Survival belongs to the pack that can coordinate a strike across a mile of featureless snow. They watch the hadrosaur herd with a patient, crystalline focus, their golden eyes reflecting the pale sun like 2 points of amber trapped in a glacier. Beneath the heavy, rhythmic trampling of the giants, the small mammals of the Pleistocene have retreated into a world of permafrost and deep sleep. In this alternate history, the mammals have become the masters of the long rest, spending the majority of the winter in a state of profound hibernation. A small, hamster-like creature curls into a tight ball inside a burrow lined with scavenged dinosaur down and dry moss. Its heart beats in a slow, rhythmic throb, just enough to keep the spark of life from extinguishing. It is a tiny, warm secret buried 5 feet below the ice, waiting for the few months of the brief, frantic summer to re-emerge into the light of the giants. The landscape is dominated by the colossal presence of the glaciers, massive walls of blue ice that grind slowly across the continent with a rhythmic tectonic groan. You can hear the sound of the ice moving, a deep and ancient rumbling that vibrates in your very bones. The glaciers have carved the land into deep valleys and jagged peaks, creating a geography of extremes that pushes evolution to its furthest limits. We stand at the base of a towering ice cliff, smelling the sharp, ozone-scented air that rolls off the frozen mass. This is the ultimate architect of the Pleistocene, a frozen sculptor that reshapes the world with every passing century. As the sun begins to settle behind the white horizon, the sky turns a deep, bruised violet, and the stars emerge with a fierce, cold brilliance. The silence of the Ice Age night is absolute, broken only by the rhythmic crack of the permafrost shifting under the weight of the cold. The hadrosaur herd settles into a tight cluster, their shaggy bodies pressing together to share their collective heat. You can hear the soft, rhythmic rustle of their feathers and the deep, melodic sigh of a young animal as it tucks its head beneath its mother's flank. The warmth of the herd is a fragile, precious thing, a small circle of life in a world of infinite winter. In the distance, a massive aurora begins to dance across the sky, its curtains of green and violet light swaying in a silent, rhythmic motion. The light reflects off the snowy plains and the icy horns of the resting giants, turning the world into a landscape of shimmering, ethereal color. The dinosaurs do not look up at the lights. Their world is the wind, the snow, and the proximity of their kin. They are the products of an unbroken lineage that has survived the asteroid, the hothouse, and the grasslands. And now they have mastered the ice. They are the eternal inhabitants of an Earth that never became a human kingdom. The scents of the night are sharp and crystalline. The smell of frozen pine needles, the dry aroma of ice dust, and the faint musky scent of the huddling herd. You feel the immense, slow pulse of the planet as it moves through its glacial cycle, a rhythm that has played out 20 times over the last 2 million years. Every flake of snow, every shard of ice, is a testament to the endurance of the dinosaur line. They have evolved the feather, the social bond, and the slow metabolism required to turn the Pleistocene into a home. They are the woolly masters of the frost, the shaggy rulers of the white. The journey through the ice and the feather reaches its conclusion, and the air feels still and holy. We have seen the shaggy hadrosaurs and the white-feathered ghosts of the steppe, and now we prepare for the final chapter. The long millions of years have brought us to the edge of the modern day, an alternate present where the dinosaurs still rule an Earth that knows no human footsteps. We take one last look at the dancing aurora over the frozen plains, ready to move forward into the golden morning of a world that remained wild. The night is cold, the ice is deep, and the story reaches its eternal end. The long pulse of the glacial cycles has found its modern rhythm, leading us finally to the present day, an alternate 2026. It is a world of familiar continents and ancient oceans. Yet it is a planet that has never known the bite of a plow, the glow of a city, or the weight of a human footstep. We stand on a high, grassy plateau overlooking a vast river valley in what our history calls the American West. The sun is just beginning to break over the jagged horizon of the Rocky Mountains, casting a long, golden light that ignites the dew on the endless sea of grass. There are no power lines stretching across this landscape, no distant hum of highways, and no vapor trails marring the deep, crystalline blue of the morning sky. The air is unimaginably pure, smelling of crushed sage, sweet clover, and the heavy, musky scent of a million living things. The world is not a park or a wilderness. It is simply Earth, as it was always meant to be. In the sky above, the morning light catches the leathery, translucent wings of a group of maritime pterosaurs as they drift inland on the coastal thermals. These descendants of the Quetzalcoatlus line have remained the masters of the high atmosphere. Their bodies streamlined and light, their wingspans reaching 10 meters of effortless grace. They glide in silence, their long, spear-like beaks tucked against their chests as they scan the valley floor for movement. Below them, a flock of colorful, long-tailed birds, true dinosaurs themselves, darts through the willow thickets, their rhythmic chirping a bright, modern melody that harmonizes with the ancient wind. Down in the valley, the great river of life continues its 66-million-year-old march. A herd of modern ceratopsians, as large as elephants and covered in a beautiful, mottled pattern of forest green and ochre scales, moves toward the water's edge. They are the Plains Kings, their 3 horns polished to a dull shine, their heavy frills draped in a short, decorative fringe of feathers. You can hear the rhythmic, hollow thump of their feet and the steady, mechanical grinding of their jaws as they crop the silica-rich grass. They move with a quiet, unhurried confidence, a lineage that has outlasted the asteroid and the ice. On the edge of the herd, a group of corvosaurs, the sapient descendants of the troodontid line, watches the giants with a quiet, analytical focus. They stand about 5 feet tall, their bodies covered in a sophisticated plumage of iridescent charcoal and silver feathers that shimmer like liquid metal in the sun. One individual uses a slender, 3-fingered hand to adjust a woven satchel made of dried vines, which holds a collection of sharp obsidian flakes and medicinal herbs. They do not build stone monuments or metal machines. Their technology is biological and portable, a deep understanding of the natural world that requires no permanent scar on the earth. The corvosaur with the silver crest lets out a low, rhythmic series of clicks and whistles, communicating a complex map of the valley to the others. They have no need for writing, for their memories are vast and shared through a rich oral tradition of song and gesture. They watch the movement of the stars and the migration of the herds with a quiet, scientific wonder, their minds tuned to the long-term rhythms of the planet. There is no industry here, only a deep, sustainable harmony. They are the thinking feathers, a consciousness that chose to remain part of the wild rather than try to conquer it. Across the river, where the forest grows thick and shadowed, a pack of modern Tyrannosaurs rests in the cool shade of the towering redwoods. These are the shadow stalkers, lean and muscular predators with a coat of dark, bristly feathers that helps them disappear into the dappled light. They are social hunters, their bonds reinforced by a lifelong commitment to the pack and the shared care of their young. One hunter lifts its head, its golden eyes reflecting the river's glint with a sharp, predatory intelligence. It does not kill for sport or glory, but as a rhythmic participant in the ancient balance of the valley. In the shallow, sun-warmed waters of the coast, the great marine reptiles still break the surface to breathe. A massive mosasaur, its skin as smooth as dark glass and insulated by a thick layer of blubber, lets out a thunderous, rhythmic huff of spray before sliding back into the deep. Beside it, the long, serpentine neck of a plesiosaur rises like a periscope, its dark eyes watching the pterosaurs above. The oceans are clean, vibrant, and teeming with a diversity of life that has never known a plastic net or a chemical spill. The sea is a blue cathedral of weightless, prehistoric grace. Hidden in the deep burrows beneath the roots of the grass, the mammals continue their own ancient story. They remain small, furry, and incredibly resilient, masters of the nocturnal world and the subterranean tunnels. A small raccoon-like creature emerges at the edge of the woods, its whiskers twitching as it sniffs a fallen fruit. In this world, mammals have never become the masters of the land. But they are not failures. They are the quiet dynasty, a successful and varied group that thrives in the margins, their lives a frantic, rhythmic dance in the shadows of the giants. The sun begins its afternoon descent, painting the valley in shades of liquid gold and deep, cooling violet. The wind carries the scent of the earth, a mixture of crushed grass, clean water, and the warm, musk-scented breath of the herds. The soundscape is a perfect rhythmic tapestry, the thrum of the giants, the chirp of the birds, the hiss of the grass, and the splash of the river. It is a world that is whole, a planet where every species has found its place, and the environment is a partner, not a resource. There is no climate crisis here, only the slow, natural turning of the deep time. As the first stars emerge, the same stars that the Triceratops saw 66 million years ago, the world settles into a peaceful, rhythmic slumber. The corvosaurs huddle in their hidden nests, their silver feathers glowing in the moonlight as they whisper the day's stories to their young. The great plains kings form a circle in the grass, their heavy breathing, a steady drumbeat in the night. The Earth is a masterpiece of survival, a planet that was spared the fire and allowed to find its own way. It is a world of dinosaurs and feathers, of stone and spirit, and it is beautiful beyond words. The journey through the alternate 66 million years reaches its final, quiet rest. We have seen the asteroid miss, the hothouse rise, the grass conquer the plains, and the ice test the soul. We have walked through an Earth that was never ours, a planet that remained the domain of the giants. It is a humbling and peaceful thought to realize that the world does not need us to be magnificent. It only needs the sun, the rain, and the slow, relentless power of life to find its own balance. We stand on the ridge, watching the moon rise over a world without a single human footprint. Thank you for traveling with me through the millions of years of this lost history. If you enjoyed this journey into the world that might have been, I invite you to gently like this video and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the shadows of the past. I would love to hear in the comments which part of this alternate Earth you would most like to visit. For now, let your breathing slow and the golden light of the dinosaur savanna fill your mind. The story has reached its end, the stars are bright, and the world is at peace. Safe travels and sweet dreams.